4 divers realized they were in a deadly trap. Their decompression chamber, which was supposed to transport them from the depths to the surface safely, had turned into a tomb in mere seconds. The pipe connecting the chamber with a ship suddenly detached, causing the pressure inside to drop from 9 atmospheres to 1 immediately. Such a change in pressure is too much for the human body to handle. The nitrogen in the bloodstream starts producing gas bubbles. The divers virtually boiled on the inside. Yet, on the scale of pain, this horrific nightmarish death only reaches the mark of 7, as at least it's instant. The maximum points on the scale is 140 points. For every interval, I found a real human story. Watch this video until the end to find out what kind of pain reaches the colossal 135 points. But here's my warning: viewer discretion is advised. One day in 1975, Alex Mitchell was watching a comedy show called The Goodies at his home in Kings Lynn, Norfolk. In this episode, the comedians showcased a fictional martial art supposedly originating in northern England. The fighters had to slap each other as a greeting, eat the traditional black pudding, and throw flat caps. The intricate English humor made Alex laugh. With each new joke, he laughed harder and harder. He kept laughing for half an hour on end. Suddenly, Alex clutched at his heart, froze for a second, and dropped dead. To be completely precise, there's no such thing as dying of laughter. But Alex Mitchell had long QT syndrome. It's a condition when the heart needs more resting time between the beats. People with this syndrome have to avoid strong displays of emotion. Alex's laughter led to cardiac arrest, and the pain he experienced just before death reached 33 points on the scale. The odds of such situations are extremely low, as are the odds of being bitten by the severed head of a snake. In 2014, Pang Fan from Foshan in the Chinese province of Guangdong worked as a chef in an exotic foods restaurant. One day, his clients ordered one of the most extravagant options on the menu, a soup with Indo-Chinese cobra meat. It's a rare delicacy. To cook it, the chef swiftly cut off the snake's head to minimize its suffering. Then he skinned the body, took out the entrails, and diced and marinated the flesh. He took the cobra's severed head to throw it in the trash, when suddenly it bit Pang, injecting its deadly poison into the man's body. As it turns out, reptiles retain the ability to perform reflex actions for another hour after death. Soon, the chef's hand went red and numb. His heart started beating wildly, and it became difficult to breathe. Pang couldn't even scream. The paralysis spread to his entire body. Then the man fell onto the ground, and his heart stopped before the ambulance arrived with an antidote. This pain, which slowly paralyzes the body after a snake's bite, reaches 56 points on the scale. What could be worse than that? On February 28, 2020, Russian blogger Ekaterina Didenko invited her friends to a bathhouse to celebrate her birthday. A party always means exciting and fun content, so the girl and her guests were filming their celebration. For a nice video, they decided to dress up as scientists and fill the pool with dry ice. In essence, it's carbon dioxide. It's refrigerated until it hardens and looks like fluffy snow to later be compressed into granules. The temperature of dry ice reaches around -79 degrees Celsius. When in contact with water, it produces something like fog. It's harmless, but only in an open area. The closed space of the bathhouse didn't allow the ice to dissipate since there was too much of it, no less than 30 kilograms. The carbon dioxide soon replaced all the oxygen in the small room. However, it took the guests, who were euphoric from the celebration, a long time to notice it. In this footage, we can see 2 men having fun. They jumped into the pool and disappeared into the fog. The video cut off because everyone had started having trouble breathing. The guests began running out in a panic, and someone called an ambulance. But the 2 men who had jumped into the pool stayed there. As it turned out, they died on the spot. They could neither inhale nor exhale. The strong pulsations caused them a splitting headache, after which both of them went unconscious and started experiencing seizures. Usually, death of asphyxiation arrives after 4 to 6 minutes of total lack of oxygen, and the pain caused by that reaches 60 points. However, there are stories in which people choose to feel an even greater pain of their own volition. I'm talking about thrill seekers willing to risk anything for an adrenaline rush. On May 16, 2015, 2 base jumpers named Dean Potter and Graham Hunt gathered on a mountain point that was almost 2,300 meters high in Yosemite National Park to perform a wingsuit flight. A wingsuit is a costume with wings that allows people to fly like birds before opening the parachute. So, base jumpers hop off and hover over the abyss. The speed of a wingsuit flight can reach over 200 kilometers per hour. This makes any mistake potentially deadly. Apart from that, the more professional the base jumpers are, the more they want to make the task even more difficult for themselves. For example, they try to fly very close to trees or rocks. So, when Dean and Graham disappeared, the girl who secured their safety on the point heard a strange noise. She thought it was the parachute's opening, but the men weren't supposed to end their flight so soon. She immediately tried contacting the base jumpers, but they didn't respond. Such jumps are prohibited in Yosemite National Park. So the guy's companion thought they'd landed after seeing the cops and weren't responding because they were talking with the officers. Yet, a few minutes later, it became clear that this silence had gone on for too long, and she called for help. The Yosemite Search and Rescue Service started looking for the men immediately, but the rangers failed to find them that night. In the morning, a state police force helicopter noticed Dean and Graham's bodies from the air. They were lying in a notch of a rocky ridge. Their parachutes weren't open, which meant the two base jumpers had tried to perform a complex stunt and fly past the structure, only to fail and crash. On the pain scale, this reaches 76 points. Many types of sports result in painful and deadly injuries. For example, in mountaineering, it's not just a simple fall that can kill you. On May 21st, 2001, a French mountaineer named Pierre Paperon was summiting Everest via the Northeast Ridge route. At an altitude of 8,500 meters, he was horrified to see a corpse wearing green mountaineering boots stuck in the ice. As it turned out, the body's been lying in a limestone alcove cave for quite some time, and no one knows for sure who it belonged to. The mountaineer most likely couldn't take the difficult ascent to the world's highest peak any longer and froze to death. There are a few versions regarding the identity of green boots, and most clues point to it being Sueng Paljor. In 1996, 8 mountaineers died after getting caught in a blizzard on Mount Everest. But the most horrifying thing in this story is that the corpse became a landmark for other mountaineers. The last minutes of Green Boots' life looked something like this. At first, he trembled from the cold, but then the frost paralyzed his body. All of his limbs went numb, but the unbearable pain in the muscles and the bones remained. Then, the consciousness started dimming. At this point, people usually begin having delusions and hallucinations, and at some point, they start feeling like it's very warm or even hot in the surroundings. The mountaineers get drowsy and slowly die. Even though in the last seconds of life, the freezing person feels like the pain is over, this slow process reaches no less than 80 points on the pain scale. However, even if a person dies instantly, it can still be excruciating. In 1981, Michael Anderson Sloan was sentenced to death by electrocution for the murder of Mary Elizabeth Room. Michael sexually abused and killed her with an iron in her own apartment. Yet in 1983, a retrial dropped the allegations of sexual abuse and changed Michael's sentence to a lifetime in prison. However, fate played a trick on him. One day, Michael was trying to fix a pair of TV earphones. He had nothing to cut the wires with, so he started trying to sever them with his teeth. At that moment, the prisoner was sitting on a toilet, which is made out of metal in prison. As we all know, metal is an exceptional electricity conductor. The power went through Mike's body, boiling all of his organs and hitting his heart. In the end, the man did end up dying on an electric chair of sorts. This kind of pain reaches 90 points on the scale. Death does await you in the most unexpected places. You should stay vigilant everywhere, even in a pool at a fun cocktail party. On July 22nd, 2022, Khalil Kimhi was having fun at a corporate party in Karmeh Yosef, Israel. Suddenly, the water level in the pool he'd been swimming in started dropping. At first, everyone thought it was a prank, and someone had just opened the drain valve, so neither Khalil nor anyone else got out of the water. But in mere seconds, a real whirlpool appeared in the pool. In an instant, Khalil got sucked inside the pool structure, behind which, as it turned out, a void appeared. In this footage, we can see another man barely escaping the same trap. The water kept pulling Khalil through a tunnel of dirt and stones, causing him countless wounds and fractures. The poor man's body was found by the rescuers in a 13-meter deep opening. This suffering reached 93 points on the pain scale. But the death that can be placed at 100 points is definitely not for the weak of heart. On December 13th, 2020, Marius Els went on another walk with his pet hippopotamus. Yes, you've heard that right. A few years before, a farmer from South Africa rescued a hippopotamus cub from a flood. After this, he took it home and brought it up like a domestic animal. Humphrey the hippopotamus responded to his name, played with Marius, and even let the man ride on its back. Marius often fed the animal by hand and brushed its teeth. The locals were worried by the fact that the hippopotamus attacked cows and even killed one of them. However, Marius kept saying the animal was peaceful and obedient. Yet, one day, after a walk with Humphrey, the farmer disappeared. Soon, he was found dead, with wounds from large teeth on his body. Ironically, the hippopotamus assaulted its master on the very same river where Marius had rescued it. Hippopotamus teeth are very different from lion or wolf teeth. Their bites result in fast blood loss and death. The hippopotamus's mouth resembles an enormous press, crushing bones and tearing muscles under tremendous pressure. On the pain scale, such a death stands at 100 points. But the next death I'll tell you about reaches 110 points. In 2009, the police of the town of Konotop in Ukraine documented an extremely strange death. Something had exploded right in the mouth of 25-year-old Volodymyr Lykanos. Sadly, the doctors couldn't save the man. His head injuries were too bad. The police found that the guy had been chewing gum just before his death. But can gum really explode? A forensic examination revealed that an explosive powder named hexogen was to blame for the incident. But why did the manufacturer add it to the gum? The police found out that Volodymyr liked to dip his gum in citric acid. He was a chemistry student who apparently conducted forbidden experiments. That's why he mixed up a safe food acid with hexogen. This substance's explosive power is 4 times greater than TNT. On the pain scale, such a death reaches 110 points. You'd think there's nothing more painful than that, but you'd be wrong. On December 16, 2015, a towing service employee of Mumbai International Airport, Ravi Subramaniam, was helping an aircraft get towed backwards. The plane was running late, so the pilots opened the engine power in haste, failing to notice that 4 towing specialists were still standing next to the aircraft. The men quickly moved away in different directions to avoid being crushed, but Subramaniam was standing with his back toward the plane and didn't manage to react that fast. In mere seconds, the man got sucked into the jet engine, whose blades rotate at the speed of 50,000 times per minute. So they immediately inflicted countless injuries on the man's body. He was virtually torn into pieces. Even though this death was instant, it was still horrific and reached a colossal 120 points on the pain scale. However, this is still not the highest mark. So what death is more painful than everything I've mentioned above? In 1985, a patient of Yakima Valley Memorial Hospital in the state of Washington, USA, had cancer and was undergoing radiation therapy on the Theroc 25 machine. Radiation therapy is far from being the most pleasant procedure in and of itself. Yet after another painful session, the woman developed a strange stripe-shaped redness on her thigh, which the doctors hadn't warned her about. This is not the only case of patients receiving radiation burns after undergoing treatment with this machine. Sadly, the doctors took too long to find fault with its functioning. Instead of a safe dose consisting of 200 rads, the machine produced around 20,000. That's a radiation level you'd receive inside the broken Fukushima reactor. This mistake caused the deaths of at least 6 patients. It was a truly horrible death, accompanied by tissue necrosis, organ failures, and internal bleeding. This pain reaches 135 points. How high do you think are the ratings of dying of dehydration, swallowing glass, and childbirth? Leave your thoughts in the comments and subscribe to this channel to avoid missing out on the correct answer.